When we think about the impact food has on our health, most of us consider calories, vitamins, and taste. But dig a little deeper and we uncover a more complex relationship, one where what you eat can actually influence processes at the cellular level, including the growth of cancer cells. Several decades of research have shed light on certain foods or food components that, when consumed excessively or consistently, may support conditions within the body that promote cancer cell growth. It's important to clarify, no single food causes cancer on its own. Cancer is a result of a complex interplay of genetics, environment, and lifestyle. However, studies have highlighted dietary factors that can encourage the formation or proliferation of cancer cells. Let's explore 7 significant foods or food groups where concrete scientific data points to a connection with cancer biology. Sugar and refined carbohydrates stand at the forefront of this conversation. When we consume simple sugars, or foods with a high glycemic index, like white bread, pastries, sugary drinks, or candies, they trigger a surge in blood glucose levels. In response, insulin is released to help ferry glucose into our cells, fueling our body and brain. But repeated spikes in blood sugar and insulin can create a pro-inflammatory environment and escalate the risk of insulin resistance, a condition tightly linked to metabolic syndrome and obesity. According to data published in the International Journal of Cancer in 2006 and supported by subsequent studies, insulin and insulin-like growth factor, IGF-1, can actually stimulate the growth of certain types of cancer cells. High insulin levels act like fertilizer for these cells, encouraging them to divide and thrive. Furthermore, cancer cells often rely on glucose as a primary fuel source, a phenomenon known as the Warburg effect. Excessive sugar intake doesn't directly cause cancer, but it helps set the stage for cancerous cells to flourish if they do arise. Processed meats are another group with strong evidentiary ties to cancer risk. In 2015, the International Agency for Research on Cancer, IARC, part of the World Health Organization, classified processed meat as a Group 1 carcinogen, the same category as tobacco smoking, as a result of comprehensive analyses of hundreds of studies across different populations. Processed meats include bacon, sausages, hot dogs, ham, and deli meats. What makes these foods problematic are the preservatives and methods used, such as salting, curing, or adding nitrates and nitrites. During cooking, especially at high temperatures, these additives can undergo chemical transformations, creating compounds known as nitrosamines. Nitrosamines have been demonstrated in laboratory experiments and epidemiological studies to damage DNA and promote mutations, laying the groundwork for cancer, particularly colorectal cancer, but also potentially stomach and pancreatic cancers. For example, data from the European Prospective Investigation into Cancer and Nutrition, EPIC study, involving over 500,000 participants, revealed that regularly consuming processed meats increases the risk of colorectal cancer by 18% for every additional 50 grams consumed daily. Red meat, especially when cooked at high temperatures or over open flames, comes with its own set of cancer-promoting risks. It's not the meat itself, but the ways it can be transformed during cooking, grilling, broiling, or frying, that lead to the formation of heterocyclic amines, HCAs, and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, PAHs. Both HCAs and PAHs have been shown in experimental models to damage cellular DNA and initiate the cascade of mutations that can lead to cancer. A meta-analysis, published by the Journal of the American Medical Association in 2005, found that high consumption of well-done, roasted, or barbecued meats was correlated with an increased risk of colorectal, pancreatic, and prostate cancers. The American Institute for Cancer Research recommends that if red meat is consumed at all, it should be limited to no more than 18 ounces per week, and ideally cooked via gentler methods like baking or stewing. Trans fats, which gained popularity during the early and mid-20th century as partially hydrogenated oils in margarines, baked goods, and processed snacks, have become infamous for their association with heart disease. But research also draws connections between trans fats and cancer. A 2014 study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, involving over 30,000 participants, demonstrated that higher levels of trans fats in blood samples were correlated with increased risks of breast and prostate cancers. Trans fats trigger chronic inflammation, a driver of DNA damage and altered cellular environments, favorable for cancer development. Though many countries have taken significant steps to reduce or eliminate artificial trans fats in foods, they can still be found in some processed snacks, fried foods, and baked goods. Alcohol deserves serious consideration as well. While moderate consumption is sometimes linked with certain health benefits, like protection against heart disease, concrete data show alcoholic beverages are a carcinogen, particularly with respect to cancers of the breast, mouth, throat, esophagus, liver, and colorectal. Alcohol is converted in the body to acetaldehyde, a toxic substance and probable human carcinogen, as documented by the IARC. Acetaldehyde can directly damage DNA, and alcohol also impairs the body's ability to extract and use key nutrients necessary for DNA repair, such as folate. The data are clear. Even modest intake increases risk. For example, women who consume just one alcoholic drink per day have a 7 to 10% higher risk of breast cancer compared to those who abstain. The risk increases with each additional drink, as found in large-scale prospective studies like the Nurses' Health Study. Fried foods, especially when fried in reused or overheated oils, are another major concern. The culprit in these foods is acrylamide, a chemical formed when carbohydrate-rich foods are cooked at high temperatures, as in deep frying or baking. Acrylamide has been shown in laboratory studies to increase the risk of certain cancers in animals, and while the precise risk to humans is still being determined, the International Agency for Research on Cancer has classified it as a probable human carcinogen. Chips, French fries, and some commercial baked goods can contain significant amounts of acrylamide. For example, analysis by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration revealed that a single serving of French fries could contain up to 60 micrograms of acrylamide. While occasional consumption is unlikely to cause harm, regularly eating these foods can contribute to a pro-cancer environment. Finally, highly processed foods, those loaded with artificial colors, flavors, preservatives, and low in fiber or nutritional value, have come under scrutiny in recent years. These include packaged snacks, sugary breakfast cereals, instant noodles, and ready-to-eat meals. Data from the French Nutrinet Santé study, which tracked more than 100,000 adults over several years, found that every 10% increase in the proportion of ultra-processed foods in the diet was associated with a more than 10% increase in overall cancer risk. While these foods are not direct carcinogens, their cumulative effect, increased inflammation, higher rates of obesity, elevated blood sugar, and exposure to potentially harmful additives, contributes to an environment where cancer cells can more easily take hold and multiply. After learning about these foods and the roles they can play in feeding cancer cells, you might feel a sense of concern or even anxiety. But it's crucial to remember that dietary risk is just one piece of a much larger puzzle. No single meal or ingredient can determine your fate. Rather, cancer prevention is about patterns, cumulative exposures, and overall lifestyle choices. Shifting away from high-sugar and ultra-processed foods has ripple effects far beyond cancer risk, improving heart, brain, and metabolic health. Replacing red and processed meats with leaner options, such as poultry, fish, legumes, or plant-based proteins, can dramatically reduce exposure to carcinogenic compounds. Opting for gentler cooking methods lowers your intake of potentially harmful chemicals. Moderating alcohol intake and staying mindful of fried foods further distances you from risk factors. A key aspect underlying these recommendations is the role of inflammation in cancer. Chronic inflammation, often stoked by the foods mentioned here, damages cells, disrupts normal immune function, and fosters mutations and uncontrolled cellular growth. Conversely, diets rich in whole, plant-based foods, like leafy greens, berries, cruciferous vegetables, whole grains, nuts, and seeds, are associated with lower inflammation and enhanced cellular resilience. Scientific understanding is always evolving, and while the data linking certain foods to cancer are robust, individual risk also varies due to genetics, environment, and other lifestyle choices, including physical activity, tobacco exposure, and stress. Still, the epidemiological evidence is strong enough that leading health organizations, including the World Cancer Research Fund, American Cancer Society, and International Agency for Research on Cancer, recommend limiting intake of the foods discussed here to safeguard cellular health. Education and awareness are the first steps. By recognizing that foods high in added sugar and refined carbohydrates, processed and red meats, trans fats, alcohol, fried foods, and highly processed products can support an environment in which cancer cells thrive, you empower yourself to make choices aligned with long-term well-being. It doesn't mean you must banish all these foods forever, but it does mean paying attention to portion sizes, frequency, and context within your overall dietary lifestyle. Equally important is what you include in your diet. Prioritizing fiber-rich foods helps regulate blood sugar, modulate inflammation, and support healthy gut bacteria that may play a role in cancer resistance. Antioxidants, found abundantly in colorful fruits and vegetables, can help neutralize free radicals and support cellular defenses. Physical activity, alongside smart dietary choices, offers another powerful line of defense. Regular movement not only helps maintain a healthy weight, a factor tied to lower risk of at least 10 different types of cancer, but can also have direct anti-inflammatory effects and bolster immune surveillance against early aberrant cells. Finally, it's vital to approach the subject with balance and self-compassion. Dietary perfection is neither realistic nor necessary. Instead, look for sustainable shifts, swapping out sugary drinks for water or unsweetened tea, choosing whole grains over white flour products, marinating and baking meats instead of charring them, exploring plant-based proteins, and being mindful of alcohol and processed foods. In closing, the foods you eat interact with your body at the molecular level, influencing not just how you feel in the short term, but how your cells function and whether they are more or less conducive to the growth of cancer. By understanding and choosing to limit foods supported by scientific data as cancer cell promoters, you take a significant and empowering step toward a healthier, more resilient body. Let this knowledge inspire you not only for potential cancer prevention, but for overall vitality, energy, and well-being. Each meal, each choice, is an opportunity to nourish your cells in ways that support optimal health, today and in the years to come.